Let's stand up, if you don't mind. Kind of get your blood pumping or something, right? I forgot what you're supposed to. I closed my eyes and zoned out and didn't remember what do you call that? Celestial? Where'd she go? Anyway. Oh, celestial, yeah. Communication, yeah. All right. So let's just pray. Lord, thank you for who you are. Just thank you for your presence, your power, your blessing over our lives. And we ask you to especially bless moms and families today. Amen. You can be seated. So I'm not real good at coming up with holiday messages. It'd be a great time to talk about the divine feminine, the feminine aspects of the divine nature, or a great time to talk about moms or families or whatever, but alas, that's not what we're going to do today. So I hope that's okay. How many of you, but we will maybe share some things that will help you if there's anything in your life that you want to change. How many of you have anything in your life, something in your life that you would like to change? Let me see your hands. Okay, so at least I'm talking to a few of the right people. Now, this could be something as simple as you want to become more healthy. You want to become more peaceful and happy on the inside. You'd like to make some more money. Or it could be as radical as, I hate my life and I want to blow everything up and have a complete change. So, whichever category that you find yourself on that spectrum or wherever in between, the principles of actually changing are basically the same. First step, so I'll give you a few steps. The first thing that we have to do if we want something in our life to change, and this maybe is one of the hardest initial steps, is we have to take responsibility for where we are, realize that nothing will change unless we change it. And this is hard for us, especially if we're used to, just praying and asking God to do things, or if we're just used to feeling, it really has to do a lot with your sense of empowerment. People who can't take responsibility oftentimes don't have any sense of empowerment. And oftentimes, people don't change because they don't feel powerful enough to change. They feel like an effect rather than a cause. And the truth of the matter is that even though you or I may feel like an effect, the reality is that we're always at cause, because the universe is set up in such a way that it's going to put us in situations that will reflect back to us the thoughts and feelings and actions and choices, and the sum total of all of that stuff in our life literally gives off a signal that they can measure. We've done it before. There's an organization called the Heart Math Institute. It's like heart arithmetic, only heart math institute. And they've done all kinds of amazing scientific studies, and they can measure the impulse that you give off at a heart level. And I can't remember how much they measured out, but it's fairly significant. And one thing that's interesting, it's like 1,000 times stronger than the impulses that are coming from your brain. And that field, if you will, is different for everybody. It's like your own personal signature, if you will, that you walk around with. And then it interacts with all the other information fields and energy fields that are out there. And pretty soon your life begins to take on the pattern of whatever you're putting out. Whether you feel like that's happening or not doesn't matter. The reality is that we're all very much involved in creating our own reality. The problem is, then if we don't do something different to change the vibration of the field, then nothing's going to change outside. So you have to take responsibility for where you are, and you have to believe that you're the only one that can change it. Because as long as you stay in that signature, as long as you stay at that vibration, you're going to keep attracting the same kinds of stuff. And if you don't know where your vibration is, because we're really good at lying to ourselves. We're really good at making excuses for ourselves. We're really good at blame shifting to other things or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that regardless of all of that, until we do something differently, nothing's really going to change. right? Now, we all know this, right? So, I mean, we know, the power of positive thinking or faith or whatever, but really, even the way a lot of Christian people do faith or talk about faith, the ones that actually believe in it, the ones that actually believe some of the things that Jesus said that we could do, like where he said, the works that I do, you shall do also, and greater works than these, which we haven't really seen, or that you could have faith. If you had faith as a mustard seed, you could move a mountain. Or even when miracles happened in the Bible, Jesus would turn around and say, your faith has made you whole, right? But we have a tendency to think that God is looking for us to have faith, and if he finds enough, then he does it, which is still not how it works. Jesus said the mountain would obey you, not that you would call out to him and the mountain would obey him. Right? So the second thing you got to do, after you take responsibility, after you realize that you can change it, the second thing you got to do, very simple, right? You got to decide, what is it that you want different? What is it that you want to change? And that maybe is a little bit harder than it sounds. Right? But we have to decide what it is that we want to change, and then this is really the key. We have to realize it won't change unless we take strong, powerful action to make something happen. Until you actually change something in your body, literally, your body starts doing something differently. You start taking different actions towards the thing that you want, nothing's really going to change. And that requires a very decisive commitment. See, most people kind of flirt around with the idea of change. They think about change. They think they'd like to have that or whatever. And oftentimes the reason we don't have what we want is because we have fears, we have anxieties, we have other kinds of emotions and stuff going on inside of us that when we start to step out, those things take over and prevent us from moving forward, and we just fall back, right? And so we find ourselves double-minded, we find ourselves indecisive, or we find ourselves incongruent. Moving forward, kind of, sort of, well, maybe, but maybe not sure. Anybody relate to that? And then we get frustrated and whatever. So the reality is, if you want something to change, you have to make a quality decision. This is what I want, and you settle it once and for all. Right? So that's the whole point of marriage vows, right? I mean, you can date whoever you want. Well, maybe not whoever you want, but you get the point. You can date someone, you can live with someone, you can whatever, you can have a relationship with them. But when you go to make vows to each other, you're settling it from this day forward. This is how we're going to be, right? And you don't backtrack on that. Or if you buy a house, if you can't relate to that, if you buy a house, you go and you shop for houses. Oh, I like this one. I don't like the master bathroom in that one. Oh, that bedroom's too small. Oh, I like the location, but the neighbor has a really noisy dog. Whatever, right? You're looking at how, oh, I fell in love with this. Oh, now it's off the market. Oh, we're looking again, right? So that's the indecisive time, right? That's the indecisive time. But when you sign the contract, or maybe even more so, when you sign the mortgage, now all that goes away. Why? Because it's settled. You get it? And until you actually settle something, you don't want change. You just say you do. Or you're hoping that maybe it'll work out or something, but you're not taking powerful, congruent action. So you stay stuck in the same place. See it? So sometimes it's helpful to think in real-term behaviors. What behavior am I going to change? What thing am I going to do different? What different kinds of actions am I going to take to get to where I want to be? And maybe you don't have a clue, but just setting the intention, just realizing that you're responsible, that you have the power to change it, and making the decision and setting the intention and then stepping out, even if you do it wrong, even if you make a dumb mistake, there's enough power and energy in the movement forward that you can begin to shift things for yourself. You begin to shift into a new reality. But then we have to ask ourselves the question, what prevents us from taking action? And if we're honest, it comes back to the way we are patterned on the inside. The way we actually are patterned on the inside. It's unfortunate that, one of the ways we water down things, I think, is we talk about, well, I changed my mind. How many know you can change your mind, but nothing is going to change just because you changed your mind? Now, another part of our problem in the West is that we have a tendency to separate the mind from the body. We separate the mind from the body. But the reality is that your mind or your consciousness is indwelling. It's incarnate. It's in flesh. Right? Think about something that you've learned to do that you have mastery over. It could be as simple as something you have mastery of. If you're a musician, you can certainly relate to this, unless you're one of those people that was just really gifted and could sit down and play, the first time you sat down at a piano by ear, which certainly wasn't me. You had to go through a mental process of learning music, learning where to put your fingers on the keyboard or the guitar or whatever the case may be, right? You had to do that, right? That's a mental process, but it had to translate into your body. So your mind is literally embodying what it means to be a musician. Or what about driving a car? That's something all of us do, right? When you first, it's amazing. Some of you parents can appreciate this. It's amazing how much you forgot that you didn't know when you started driving until you teach your teenager with a permit and you take them out the first time on the highway, right? Or in my case, my teenage niece. It's like, oh yeah, this is simple. And then it's like, oh, you have so many things, that you have to remember to tell them. And particularly any of us that learned to drive in with a stick shift, right? That just puts more mental processes. But point being, a musician gets to a point where they can sit down and they can just play. They don't have to run through those processes anymore. They can read music like they're reading a book. And it's just translated into action. Or when you're driving, you don't have to think about it. You ever get home from someplace and think, I wonder how I did that? I don't remember going through the lights. Okay, well, don't ride with me. The rest of y'all probably safer if you don't do that. But you get the point that I'm making. There's a process. There's a changing of the mind, but it isn't as simple as, I just changed my mind. It actually takes work. It takes effort. It takes conscious effort to change the patterning in your physical body. So whatever you're living, whatever you're experiencing in your life is a result, listen to this, is a result of the truth at any given time that you are embodying. Whatever's true for you that you're embodying. It's one of the things that's so empowering when you can look at truth differently. When you can look at it as something that actually does kind of shift and change, right? And it's Mother's Day, second Mother's Day since our mom passed away, right? So this Mother's Day does not have the same truth for me that previous Mother's Days had. You get it? Because it changed. So truth can change. So whatever your truth is, whatever you're embodying, whatever's at the mind-body level, in other words, not separating the mind from the body, but realizing it's one system. And that's why people say, if someone's actions contradict their words, what do you believe? Say it again. If their actions contradict their words, what do you believe? Their actions, right? Everybody knows that, right? Why? Because their words reflect their intentions, their actions reflect their truth. Because it's what they've embodied. Right? And that's true for all of us. Now, what happens when we don't like the truth that we're embodying? Right? Anybody ever been there? Anybody ever, right? So, what happens? There has to be such a radical change in the way you see and feel about yourself before anything will really change. And that's the key. It's how you feel. Everybody say feel. Because where are your feelings? Where are your feelings? They're in your body. You never had an emotion that you didn't feel. If you felt it, it was in your body. Gosh, I really had a good time. We went over to Greg and Susie's Friday night. Man, we had a really good time, but it was out there somewhere. We didn't really experience it, but we know we had a good time because, I mean, I'm being silly about the point, but I don't think we really get this, that your feelings are a biological process. It's a biological process, and your feelings register somewhere in your body, and your feelings always tell you the truth about your truth. They don't always tell you the truth about the situation, but they tell you the truth about what you believe about the situation. Not what you're trying to tell yourself you believe. See, when we used to teach faith back in the day, or it was taught to me, early on, we talk about faith and drawing things and law of attraction, they call it today, but back then we were, in churches it was faith. And what they told me was, just quote a scripture, just stand on a promise. And they got a lot of it right because they said change your language to reflect what you want. Change your actions. Act like you already have it. Talk like you already have it. Right? But they didn't really tell us what to do with our thoughts, and they certainly didn't. What they said with your feelings, don't listen to your feelings, because your feelings are lying to you. Right? But what you don't get is until the feeling changes, your mind really hasn't been renewed. Your mind really hasn't changed. Because you're still embodying an old truth. And this is where we get messed up, because we're embodying a truth that does not match our wants and our desires. We're embodying a truth. Oftentimes, we will take action that will move things forward and change in our lives, and then we will sabotage ourselves. So our feelings don't match our wants and our desires, and oftentimes our feelings don't match the new reality that we're trying to create. And so we find ourselves in a really difficult, hard place at times. And then it just seems like, well, change is so hard. I would do that, but it's too hard. Anybody ever use that one? Why is it hard? Part of the problem is you think that it's that's hard. It's not. What's hard is you haven't changed on the inside, and you're trying to do it on the outside when you're still the same person, still believing the same stuff, still feeling the same stuff, still thinking the same way, still doing the same stuff, and hoping for a different outcome, which Einstein said was the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result, right? How many ever saw the movie Groundhog Day? I've used that a lot if we've been talking about this stuff. But old movie with Bill Murray where he gets stuck in repeating the same 24-hour day over and over and over again, right? The difference between Bill Murray in that movie and most of us is he actually wanted out. So if you watch it, he did something every day to try to break the pattern. So what are you doing? What am I doing? What are we doing every day to try to break the pattern? Simple stuff. If you want to be more peaceful, what action are you taking every day to become more peaceful? Are you meditating? Are you doing some journaling to work through anger or unforgiveness or something like that? See, if you're not taking action towards that, then you don't really want it. You get it? You haven't decided for whatever reason. If you want to make more money, what are you reading? What books are you reading? What are you learning? How much are you saving? What are you doing every day? I mean, one of the best things that you can do now, not everybody's a reader, but in this day and age, you can find anything you want on YouTube, believe me. My kids do it all the time. And some of the stuff I wish they wouldn't find. Right? Like, you seriously got to monitor that stuff with your kids. Holy cow, who knew? Right? But it's like a little encyclopedia, and Josiah's like a little, and Eli too, but they're just like little encyclopedia. They just ask you to, and so now it's, if we don't know something, Daddy, how do we do this? Or Daddy, and if you say, I don't know, and they'll say, well, ask YouTube. It's true. We moved, it's funny. I work at the university, and they're remodeling our building, and so this has nothing to do with my message. We're remodeling our building, and we had to move into one of the old dorms. So I was the last one they hired, so they were expanding, but they had to clean out the storage closet to give me an office. So I went from a storage closet of an office to a dorm room, a 2-person dorm room. So I'm like living it up, right? But they got banker's boxes for us to pack stuff up. Anybody ever worked with a banker's box? Okay, well, I'm going to tell them myself. I've never worked with a banker's box. They handed me this flat thing. And I hate to say it, but I'm a very verbal person. Like, I'm not good. Like, I suppose most men aren't good at following directions anyway, But I've got to be told more than see. So if I can read it and hear it in my head, I know better what to do than if I look at a picture with letters and numbers and arrows. And they don't do that anymore. They just, how many things, all this stuff that comes, stuff for the kids, all this stuff, and there it is. It's just pictures, no words. And I'm sitting here trying to figure out what that arrow means. And so here I am, master's degree, 3 college degrees, actually. And I'm trying to figure out how to put the damn banker's box together. And like, my coworkers are there. And I'm like, I am not, and I'm messing with this thing, and I'm like, I am not going to go out, my master's degree self, and say, could you please help me put this banker's box together? I can't figure it out. So I had an idea. I'll YouTube it. Yeah, guess what? Man, there was scores of things on YouTube about how to put a banker's box together. And I was so appreciative because there were men, and this guy comes on and says, I don't know if you've ever had to mess with one of these things, but if you're like me, let me just show you the tricks. And sure enough, 2 minutes later, I had it together, right? I could come out like, yeah, I'm a man. I conquered. I overcame. I saw, I conquered. Why am I saying that? No idea. No. My point is, if you want to learn and you're not a reader, look on YouTube, look on the internet. There are so many resources and things that are available. And so if you want to change something, you can start educating yourself about what you want to change. So I'm sad to say I've kind of given up my healthy lifestyle that I really want to get back to. But after, years of working on degrees and just, not finding time to exercise or eat right or any of that stuff, getting unhealthy, high blood pressure, all those different things that come with it. And so we decide, because Julie wanted to get healthy, because we started a family later. In life, so I'd like to be around longer and healthy for it, right? So there's the motivation. See? And I'm not kidding you. We made a New Year's resolution, not this year. But I don't know, several years ago, we made a New Year's resolution. Okay, we're going to join the Y. We're going to eat healthy, get to working out. Now, we made that December 31st. Now, everybody knows you don't go back to the gym in January, right? At least not for the first 2 weeks. And if you want to see this in action about how hard it is to change because people don't really change on the inside, just hit the gym January 2nd and then go back January 10th and just count. You know, like you don't even have to work out, just go ahead and count. And then about the 10th, because I've noticed over the years people's resolve and their resolutions gets weaker and weaker. It used to be February, now it's just about a week and a half. You know, everybody clears out, they gave up. So, in our case, and this is honest God truth, our New Year's resolution that we did on December 31st, love that kid. Does kind of make me wonder where the babysitter is, but make the decision on December 31st, but it didn't kick in until like March 31st. But March 31st, we started fulfilling our New Year's resolution and went for 4, 5, 6 years consistently until fell off the wagon or whatever with it. Just had a lot of chaotic things happen and just quit. But so what happened? What happened that it actually kicked in March instead of January? Because you see, January 1st, even though I didn't make it to the gym, every day I was reading something about diet or exercise. Every day. Just little things, little articles, books, whatever. Why? Because that information has to get in. So literally, I started working on my New Year's resolution January 2nd. It took me about 3 months until I embodied the new beliefs that could lead to the action and the change. Does it make sense? Now, when it comes to faith and the law of attraction, this is the last part. And this may be the hardest part. If you want something new, you always have to say goodbye to something that you had. You cannot embrace something new if you do not let go of the old. Let go of the old pattern. Because, frankly, guys, we develop these patterns because they work for us. They're coping mechanisms. We think they get us what we want. They keep us comfortable. Whatever. And so sometimes the hardest part of change, is giving up what you had for what you want. Hardest part of change in diet is giving up cheeseburgers and pizza and donuts and Coca-Cola, whatever, for rabbit food. Like, whoever came up with kale? What's that? Yeah, I mean, I found some different ways to kind of make it, I wouldn't say palatable, I would say consumable. But you get it? If you're going to do that, you got to say goodbye to that. If you're going to work out, you got to say goodbye to whatever you were doing, scrolling Facebook or watching TV or whatever you did during that hour and a half. You have to let go of it. If you're going to step into a new financial opportunity, you've got to let go of whatever. If it's a new job, you got to let go of the old job. If it's a new relationship, you got to let go of the old relationship. You get it? And that's maybe the hardest part. And those are the things that cause us to misstep or to not really be congruent about what we want. So if you want to make change easy, realize ain't nothing going to change till you actually do something to change it. Right? And that action has to be powerful, it has to be strong, and it has to be committed. So in other words, I couldn't just read an article about diet and exercise on the 2nd, and maybe on the 8th, and maybe on the 15th when I got around to it, and we'll shoot for next year. See what I'm saying? Even though it was simple as maybe 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, it was consistent because it was backed up by a decision that required action in order to create change. And the reason we don't take action, we're not congruent on the inside. And most of the times, it's because of our feelings. Things that we want to ignore, things that we want to suppress, things that we don't want to deal with, that really, they're just telling you, they're just signals there to tell you, hey, this is your truth in this moment. If you're perfectly content with every area of your life, don't change a thing. But if there's something that you want to see change, quit trying to expect everybody around you to change and act different, because they ain't. Because they got their own patterns. Take that control that you're using out here on everybody else and apply it back to yourself. And powerful things can begin to happen for you. Does that help you? Okay, let's pray again. Lord, thank you for helping us, and I just pray that you'll help us to make change also fun and exciting and easy when we learn the keys and we learn the steps. Bless everyone here. Amen. God bless you. Have a great Mother's Day.